Welcome back to the Ronnie Trolls Podcast, the greatest podcaster in the world by my own standards. And today we're going to talk about Nephilims and different things like that. And then later on we'll talk about Bruce Lee. But for now, I just want to go over some of the things I learned last night. So I was watching Tucker Carlson, who really kind of hits the nail on the head. So he has some guest speakers. Sean Stone, who apparently made a bunch of movies. Well, he's in filmmaking. So apparently made like JFK. He helped make Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy. So he's kind of good explaining how the people in power in Hollywood turned to demonic rituals and, the occult and, good versus evil. And then this guy was really good. Father Stephen DeYoung, master's degree in theology, philosophy, humanities. And he explaining like where the Nephilium came from and how somewhat being used today and, genetics and different things. So I think Tucker Carlson is doing a pretty good job. But the reason I froze it here is to like talk about how big this guy is. I mean, in today's modern society, this is not healthy. Now, I'm not fat shaming. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm saying is that, I'm trying to help in the fact that I'm studying to be a personal trainer, and this is not healthy. This is cause for a heart attack, basically, and other problems, diabetes, and things of that nature. So, I was also looking the other day at, this is a video called The 7 Beliefs That Separate Orthodox Christians from Every Other Church. So, initially it was talking about how, they like having
icons of Christ, the ATOCHA.
They like having the statues and the pictures and the, saying that this isn't anti-biblical, having a statue of Jesus and a statue of Mary and the saints, and it actually helps people get into the spirit of the thing, and how, here's some saints or whatever, apostles, different things, and how today's modern church is empty, like just an empty building like this.
After a while, strangely empty.
But then it gets into, let's go up here, fasting.
One of the primary attractions. A Christianity that tells you what to eat and when to eat. Evangelical and Baptist life. For converts, especially the young men flooding into Orthodoxy across America, this demand is not a burden. Belief 6. Fasting is not optional.
Okay.
An experience that is almost impossible to just.
So this is where we start to get into where I think they seriously go wrong. Okay. So this is Orthodox, right? And This guy is Orthodox, right? Orthodox. Orthodox. Okay, now let's play.
Describe. Belief 6. Fasting is not optional. It is a spiritual discipline. The Orthodox Church fasts more than any other Christian tradition on earth. Fasting days, when meat, dairy, fish, oil, and wine are all avoided, make up approximately half the days of the year. The 40 days of Great Lent, the Apostles' Fast, the Dormition Fast, the Nativity Fast, every Wednesday and Friday throughout the year. Most American Christians fast rarely or never. The idea that fasting is a regular prescribed.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what their concept of fasting is, but this guy's apparently eating quite a large amount of food. So here's where we get into this, like, doesn't make any sense. So when you go to, Jay Dyer, and he's an Orthodox, right? Former Calvinist and Roman Catholic, he's well known for his online debates on Orthodox theology, Christian apologetics. So apparently he believes in this fasting. You can't like be Orthodox and then say, but I don't believe in their traditions or values or commandments or whatever. And this is where, like, the wheels fall off, because, okay, let me just take it to, let's just go to Oral Roberts for a second. The Oral Roberts University. There's a triangle. Spirit, mind, body. Okay? Makes the complete man. And you'll find it in the Bible. Okay? So, Bible verse, man is spirit, soul, and body. Okay. May your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. So, man is composed of spirit, soul, and body. Okay, here we go. 3 parts. So basically, in the Bible, it talks about your diet. So you have the Jewish had to eat kosher food, which we find out today, like the pig, for example, has to be fully cooked, or it could have worm eggs in it. Well, almost most definitely will have worm eggs in it if it's not fully cooked, and then those worm eggs could then eat your brain. So it's a good thing not to eat pork unless you know that person fully cooked that meat. So it's a good thing to just say don't eat pork, right? So, don't eat insects. Certain insects, insects can have toxicities in their shells, and, different parts of their body could have venomous toxins and different things like that. So just, don't eat insects. Okay. So God somehow, knew, in general, don't eat these things. Okay. They're not healthy. And they're not clean. So it became a religious thing. Right. So But then in the New Testament, you know, was it Peter had animals brought down on the sheet, and the Lord said, eat, and he said, no, it's unclean, right? And the Lord said, what I've made clean. So even that is no longer, like, when you talk about the diet, and then it talks about it's not what a man eats, it's what he says or believes or whatever. There are different verses in the Bible about that. The food has no meaning. I mean, you shouldn't eat food that were offered to idols. You know, on one hand, on another hand, it's like, it's not going to hurt you to eat food offered to idols. But on the other hand, it's not a good witness to eat it in front of the people that offered it to idols, to act like you were part of it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different verses about food in the Bible. Going both ways. Religiously eat, doesn't matter. Clean, unclean, idols. You know, there's some story out there saying that, you know, all these big stores are having witch doctors put curses on the food you eat before it comes to the store. So you could be eating cursed food, which is another reason why you should pray over your food to get rid of the curse that was put on the food. Jesus prayed over the food, thanked the Lord, raised it up, you know. So there's all of these things about food in the Bible, going in all different directions. So if you were to say that the Jewish diet was healthy, which some people say it is, some people say not so much, kosher, then you would say, well, it's not really a religious thing. It's more of a health thing. Like back in the old days, thousands of years ago, they didn't know pigs had worms, obviously, because they didn't have microscopes. So it's not a religious thing, because later on it became meaningless to Peter. Like, it's meaningless now. So it's not a religious thing. It's only a diet. It's only a health thing. So the diet is only a health thing. It's not a religious thing. I mean, it is to the Jews because they don't believe in Jesus. So they're still in the Old Testament. They don't believe in the New Testament. So they're still under the kosher rules. Okay. So for Christianity is concerned, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, it's not a religious thing. It's only a health thing. Like, the only reason God would say that to the Jews would be for health reasons, not for religious reasons, right? Because in the New Testament, religious reasons don't matter anymore. You can eat food offered to idols. You can eat unclean food. You can eat insects, whatever you want. Okay? That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter. It's like not a religious thing. So it's only a health thing, right? It's only a health thing. Well, I mean, you could say, you know, like, for example, when they sacrifice animals, you know, and ate the animals, right? So it's interesting that I'm talking about this because, you know, in my Bible studies just the other day, I was actually, it's weird, you know, how the Spirit moves of what I'm studying. The Bible also becomes, so when the Hebrews left Egypt and they were in the desert, it's funny how you read the Bible and it talks about building like the Holy of Holies. Okay, so I guess it's a representation of Okay. This is representation. So when the Hebrews went through the desert, they had to have a movable tent-like structure to. They put the Ark of the Covenant where God would come in the Holy of Holies, and then there was like the regular holy spot. Like you have some priests here, but then one specifically, like Moses, could go into the Holy of Holies where the Ark of the Covenant was, you know, right? So, they have the candlestick. All this is described in the Bible. Okay. So here's the Ark of the Covenant picture, right? The seat where the mercy seat, So here's, okay. If you were a criminal, you could run and grab this horn for mercy. It's kind of a weird, like you were being chased for being a criminal. If you ran up and grabbed this horn, you would receive some type of mercy. It's weird when you study the Bible and you think this stuff is so boring, but it's not. This was the candle that was described. God told him to make it like this. God told him to make all of this stuff. Told him how to make it, what the dimensions were going to be, what kind of materials were to be used. And you can go through it step by step. And this is like what it would look like. And then they would move it in the desert. So it wasn't stationary. It could all be like scooped up, wrapped up, and travel. Because, when they finally got to Israel, King Solomon could build a more permanent structure, King Solomon's temple. So this is a transient structure, movable. Okay. And here, this square thing with the horns is where they would cook the sacrificed animal. Okay, right here with the horns you could grab, and then they would eat from this box. You want to call it a box, I don't know. Tabernacle. Altar. I mean, this is a tabernacle and that's the altar or whatever. Okay. So, there's even, but I'm going to go into all of that. Okay. But, so again, we're talking about Bible references to food, right? Starting from, the walk in the desert. Well, you had the manna, right? I mean, food is just like always somehow associated with religion. Okay. But not religiously, more healthfully, but then also religiously, but then not so much. It's like it can be used religiously, but then when you get to the New Testament, it's like all rules are off the table. There's nothing about food you need to think about religiously anymore. Except there's some scriptures referring to fasting, right? Which, I mean, anybody stops eating, your mind clears up. Because if you're constantly eating and your body's constantly digesting food and it's like in a way, you're discombobulated because your mind is focused more on food than anything else. It's like, okay, well, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to have for brunch? What am I going to have for the snack between, what are we going to go to this restaurant? We're going to go to the coffee shop. We're going to get a snack. We're going to get a donut. We're going to get, it's like your stomach, the Bible talks about your belly becoming the God. Like your belly overrides your mind now. It's like, okay, whatever you want to eat becomes your thought process. I feel like I want to cook a hamburger. I feel like I want to go to McDonald's. I feel like I want to, and then that becomes the controlling unit of your mind is your belly. Your hunger, your appetite, your hormones for eating. But when you fast, that resides, and now you can think more clearly because you're not always thinking about food. Like there's a moment where when you fast, all you think about is food, but then the hormones change, kick off, and you're not hungry anymore. But it took like 12 hours or 15 hours, and finally the hunger goes away because your body's like, okay, it doesn't matter what signals I send him. He's not going to eat, so let's just quit sending the signals for now. And then you're not hungry, and then that goes away. And now your mind is clear. It's not being controlled by your belly anymore. But that may take hours, 12 hours, 15 hours, something like that. And so, in that respect, fasting is good. Okay? That's good for clearing the mind to focus on God or focus on your studies or whatever. Okay, you understand? So, I'm not against fasting. But then you take that and you make it a rule in your church. Like you every certain times you have to fast. Okay. But see, let me bring up the picture. Okay. So here we are back to the Orthodox, right?
Prescribed communal discipline built into the structure of the church calendar is almost entirely foreign to evangelical and Baptist life. For converts, especially the young men flooding into Orthodoxy across America, this demand is not a burden. It is one of the primary attractions. A Christianity that tells you what to eat and when to eat it, that structures your entire year around spiritual disciplines your body participates in.
See, here's where, okay. You see how they've taken control of when you fast or that you're fasting at all. Okay? So they're showing this guy here who looks like he's in pretty good shape. But then we got the priest here who's not in shape. So is he doing the fasting? Maybe he is, but he has hormone problems. The point I'm trying to make is everyone's body is different. Okay? You can't tell a diabetic they have to fast because, I told a woman that once and she said, I can't. My sugar levels, if your sugar level gets too low, you can pass out if you're a diabetic. If your pancreas, your liver, your kidneys are not working right, okay, fasting could be very detrimental to your health. You could die. There's different things the human body is so complex. And each person, I tried to do this once. I tried to tell people how to eat. And every time I did, they would say, oh, I don't like that food, or I can't eat that because, or, I'm diabetic and that has too much sugar in it, or that doesn't, you know, my sugar level's too low, I have to eat something. I remember my uncle had candy bars in his glove compartment when I was a kid, and my cousins, I'm like, look, dude, bunch of candy bars. They're like, that's for my dad, he's diabetic. And I'm like, let's eat one. No, because he needs it. If he has a seizure, right, you got to eat a candy bar. Even one time, a friend of mine, well, he died from his diabetes, but basically we went to the beach and he had a seizure, and he's like, you need to get me a candy bar. And I had to run for like an hour to find a candy bar. I ran and ran and ran, bought a candy bar like half a mile away, and ran and ran and ran and ran all the way back. He's like, what took you so long? And I'm like, dude, you're the diabetic. You should have sugar pills or something in your pocket. But it's not my fault, but here's your candy bar. Okay? So everyone's body is different. Like, everyone has a different appetite, a different what they like to eat. Some people can't even eat certain foods. Like, some people are allergies. Some, you know, some people vomit. Some people, like, there's, you know, some people only eat, like, if you watch JRE, they only want to eat red meat, or they don't eat no red meat, or they're vegetarians, or, you know, anywhere in between, or they don't have any dairy products, or they don't have any sugar, or they don't have any carbohydrates, or they're keto, or whatever. So how can you go to a church who says, you know, thousands of years have gone by, right? And we always have the same fasting regiment for you to follow. On this day, you're going to fast, and then next week, you're going to fast, whatever. I don't know what the, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, no. Like, you know, my diet that I've studied of being healthy says to eat fish on a regular basis, says to eat red meat on a regular basis, says to eat my vegetables on a regular basis, says to count my calories, or do, you know, this is my diet that I've developed, that I'm developing, and it's still in the development. And I can't have you come and tell me what days that I'm not going to eat, or not going to eat a certain kind of food. Like, what is that? How is that justified by the New Testament, which says it doesn't matter anymore what you eat, or when, or what? None of that matters. That's religious. We're not doing the religious diet thing anymore. We're not walking through the desert with eating kosher food and things like that. Peter's whatever. What God is. So then you got to ask yourself, okay, so what is this guy doing? Is his belly his God? I mean, it's great. I mean, he had a great conversation with Tucker Carlson. I'm not, you know, against him, but I'm just saying, like, is his God his belly, or does he have a hormone problem that needs to be fixed? But he's also in an Orthodox church that tells you to fast. I mean, see, this is where the wheels fall off. You see what I'm saying? Like, all of this doesn't make any sense. That's why this is a Ronnie Troll's podcast, and that's why I'm here to clarify, right, what you're seeing on these people that have, you know, he has 5 million subscribers. My last video, I think I'm the only one that watched it. Sometimes I watch myself. I'm like, hey, I forgot. I knew that, and I just educated myself. But these people have millions of subscribers, but it's not the right information. Jay Dyer has 207,000 subscribers.
Now listen.
Okay. And he is an Orthodox, right? He's in a religion that tells you when to fast. You know, it's fine. You got images of Jesus in there and statues of saints and things like that. Okay, whatever. If that makes you happy, that's fine. I'm not, like, harping on that. But to tell me when I'm going to fast my body, whether I'm lifting weights or in the gym or jogging, doing whatever I'm doing, trying to make my body healthy, but then I have to go to a church that's going to tell me you're going to fast for the next week. You're not going to eat this, or you're not going to eat that. No. Okay, this is an image of the Tao. And, I got a fancy one, but normally there's a white side and a black side. So let's just say this is the white side and this is the black side. Okay? So, like, this would be good and this would be evil. Okay? But inside of all this good is the seed. This is the seed of evil. See, this is darker, so we'll just call that the seed of evil. And then inside of all of this evil, right, over here is a seed of good. Okay? So, like, you could talk about NASA coming from evil people, but then there's some good that came from it. Or you could talk about churches that preach the gospel is good, but then there's a seed of evil of greed and gluttony or whatever in there. So it's not like I'm all against churches or I'm all against NASA. It's like, okay, there's some good there's some bad in the good, and there's some good in the bad. And that's how you have to understand the way things work. I'm not like totally against the Orthodox Church. Probably some good things, like I just learned about. But then there's a seed of evil where they talk about fasting. And I'm not totally against, NASA, which is full of, Freemason symbology and all kind of ritual occult symbols. But then there's some good, like take pictures of other planets and stuff like that.